Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all my friends and colleagues who are with me right now in this webinar. I've been told that people from all across the world have joined this program, and I know it's morning there where you are conducting this program, it's evening here in India, and it's afternoon at many places. First of all, my greetings to all of you. Dr. Balram Singh Ji, Chairman of the Boston Center of Excellence, Mr. Kanchan Banerjee, Mr. Prameet Makode Ji, who just now was kind enough to introduce me, and Dr. Timothy, the chairman for this session, and also Dr. Diana Luri. I know that there are so many board members, all are very distinguished people with great reputation and great contribution for the society. I wish I could name all of you, but I am very happy to be part of this. I know the Consul General of India, Mr. Randhir Jaiswal, has also joined this function, and I am particularly pleased to be with all of you. You are all co-founders of this great institution, Boston Center of Excellence. I fondly remember with a lot of nostalgia our meeting that we had in this conference room itself. I think probably it was just before the COVID outbreak in the world, and there were some very high quality discussions that we all had together. And the very fact that you are more particularly working for the field of healthcare, which is I would say one of my passion areas in my life. So that gives me all the more greater pleasure in being part of this function. And I am so happy that this function is, this particular session is being chaired by Dr. Timothy, who is again a person from my own professional field, and he has been author of several books, and again on a subject which is very very close to my heart, yoga as medicine. And I was so thrilled to read that his book on the yogic prescription for health and healing, which I have been advocating all my life, apart from being a physician, surgeon with modern medicine degree. And then of course his being also the co-editor of the first medical textbook on yoga therapy. That's also very exciting information, the principles and practice of yoga as in healthcare. I am particularly glad to have Sir David Frawley at this webinar with me. We all know about the various books that he has written on topics spanning Vedas, Hinduism, Ayurveda, and Vedic astrology. And I also remember 2015 when probably he was honored with Padma Bhushan in India. He richly deserved that. And this is a function where I know that there are so many eminent scholars from various parts of America and other countries, and more particularly from Harvard, and experts, scientists, researchers, and there are very good quality participants from all over the world. So it's a great privilege for me to be part of this function, this session, and this meeting, which is around the human development and future of societies. Well, first of all, let me express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you, because it is something which is very very close to my heart. And talking about it at the fag end of 2020, where I have already been a participant in this journey against COVID and the battle against COVID, because for me this is the 11th month of this journey. It was in the first week of 2020 that there was this information from China delivered to WHO and through WHO to the whole world about the arrival of a new coronavirus causing cases of pneumonia in China. And in this ministry itself, in the present building, we were probably the first ones to respond in the whole world in an organized and institutionalized manner by holding a meeting of the group of experts within less than 48 hours of this news arriving on the international scene on 6th of January. We hosted that first meeting on 8th of January, and at that time we never knew that 2020 is going to be a hugely sad year for humanity. We have only read about the Spanish flu, but we haven't experienced that. All my life as a health activist, I have experienced so many things. I have been fortunate to have been blessed by God to dream about a polio-free India and to work around this for almost 2 decades continuously at various levels as health minister, as advisor in WHO, and working in the field. But never ever had we, in the rarest of thoughts, had this feeling that one day we'll experience an year when from the beginning of the year to the fag end of the year we'll be focusing around just one disease which has in fact caused morbidity all across the globe, affected millions and millions of people, and millions of people have lost their lives. And it's so sad for me as a medical professional also that we have lost huge number of corona warriors, our doctors, our nurses, our paramedics, our frontline workers, our journalists, and so many people in India. We lost many of these frontline workers like policemen, the paramilitary people, the people who have been involved in the fight against COVID at a number of places all across the country. And of course this is not something around India only, it has happened all across the world. So my initial salutation shall be for those great corona warriors. My greatest heartfelt tributes from the deepest core of my heart for these corona warriors who led from the front. They are still fighting the war against COVID. They are still dedicating their life, and many of them have even lost their life just for saving us. And I would also use this occasion to pay my heartfelt tributes to the mothers of these corona warriors and the frontline corona warriors who, in spite of the fact that they have seen the misery and the tragedy around the life of these corona warriors, but still, at least I know about India, I could not find even one single mother in India who told his son or daughter who was a corona warrior and working for last 10 months that please stop going to the hospital, please stop going to places where you have these COVID-19 affected patients. So that's I think something extraordinary. That's something which has the blessing of God, and no words in my vocabulary can really describe the contribution of these corona warriors. Whatever we say for them, I think that is not enough at all. And on behalf of all of you also, I pay my greatest tributes to them. You know that I am myself, as you described, an ENT surgeon. I went to a medical school in the 70s, and it's almost 4.5 decades of dedicated and continuous, consistent involvement with the medical field. And the health as such has been a passion area for me. It's been very close to my heart and soul. All my life I have worked for the field of health in various positions, whether it was as health minister in the capital of India, or whether it was as a WHO advisor for almost a decade, or whether it was as union health minister that you can see me right now, or as an activist in the medical associations. But I have always believed that health is probably the most important thing that one should be aspiring for, and one should be aiming for, and one should be preaching for, one should be dedicating for. Because if health and character are lost, we feel that everything is lost. And for a long time, the World Health Organization has been dreaming about a situation where we can really deliver the health for all model for the whole world. And they had initially promised that health for all by 2000, but it could not happen. But in India, I have always believed that India has the potential, India has the DNA, India has the ancient medical wisdom, India has the ability, India has the experience, and India has got almost everything that is required ultimately to successfully deliver a model for health for all, which can be emulated by the whole world. It's only a question of putting things together. And on number of occasions we have seen that when India decides, it does it, it delivers that. When we started our polio eradication movement 20 years back, 25 years back, we were home to 60% of the polio cases of the whole world. And many countries in our Southeast Asia region, and even people in Africa were not taking up the polio eradication movement, because people felt that as long as there are 60% cases in India, there is no point working on it, because you have to ultimately have a global polio eradication movement successful. But when India decided, India did it, in spite of the fact that we are a population of 1.35 billion people. So as I said, this health has been an area of passion for me. But I was fortunately blessed in 2014, after having spent a couple of months in the health ministry, and I always consider it as the greatest blessing in disguise of my life, of having been given the responsibility of Ministry of Science and Technology and Earth Sciences by my dear Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in 2014. And last 6 years, after having worked in the field of science and technology, having seen science from the closest of quarters, having visited every science laboratory inside India, belonging to all spheres, and having seen scientists work with utmost dedication and meticulous precision in their laboratories on almost every subject, I am thoroughly convinced that science has the potential to actually resolve and solve and alleviate the sufferings of every common man around any issue that we can think of. And it has the huge potential to actually deliver to the humanity huge dividends which can change their lives. So this is what in fact I also experienced during the last 10 to 11 months, a practical you see a manifestation of this confidence that I have developed. And I always tell the scientific community also, apart from the medical professionals, that you have to focus on your scientific social responsibility. And I always in my own way say that impact factor, its definition should not be about how many times a paper is read by somebody, but it has to be how many people and or how many problems of mankind which the people had been suffering from many decades have been solved by science through your research and through the development of newer technologies by the scientific community. And I have seen that the scientific community has huge potential and ability, acumen, and everything that is required to actually deliver that. Coming back to that 8th of January, just to give you a brief view of what we could do during the last 10 years, which ultimately resulted in today we having a recovery rate of around 94% now, where we can proudly say that out of the 90 lakh odd cases that we had of COVID-19 in India, 85 lakh people have already been cured. They have returned back home perfectly cured, and less than 5 lakh active cases in the country. It's almost around 4.3 lakhs or so. These cases are on a faster road to recovery. We have, as mentioned by Dr. Balram Singh, we have the or maybe by Mr. Prameet, that we have the least mortality rate in the world. It's right now, today evening at 6 o'clock, it was 1.46. We have already tested over 13 crore people in this country. We are testing 1 million people every day, and there is this huge, you see, statistics around multiple issues, which I may, if I get a chance or time, I can talk about it. But going back to that 8th January in 2020, when we had our first meeting of experts, within the next less than 10 days, on 17th January, we had delivered to the whole country a set of detailed advisories about how, if we also start having these new COVID-19 cases in the country, how are we going to handle it and how are we going to start our fight against it. Our first case had arrived on 30th of January. It was the day when WHO had in fact declared this as an emergency of international concern for the first time officially. But on 17th January, we had started the whole exercise of these detailed advisories. We had started our point of entry surveillance at our airports, at our ship ports, and as soon as we got a first case in Nepal, we had started the surveillance on the land borders. We had started the community surveillance, and in all these fields, at any particular moment, we were a few lakh people were always under our detailed and meticulous community surveillance all over the country. We screened lakhs of passengers at our borders, and then, of course, when we got our first case, immediately the Prime Minister constituted a group of ministers under the Health Minister, and I had the privilege to chair a meeting of the group of ministers for almost on more than 20 occasions in the last 10 months. The Prime Minister was monitoring everything all the time. The Cabinet Secretary was monitoring things. We were having video conferences with the health ministers, we were having video conferences with the health secretaries, and even at the national level, I was having video conferences with even the district magistrates of the country at the remotest places in the country. And that this whole exercise, I think, started right from the beginning. And then came the day on 11th of March when it was declared a pandemic. But this is just to apprise you that how early we started our activities around the fight against COVID under the able guidance and inspiration of our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji. And then you will also recall that towards the beginning of the last week of March, we had that great national lockdown. But just before the lockdown, probably the greatest and the most innovative idea of voluntary participation by every Indian, a Janta curfew on 22nd of March, where every Indian participated in that Janta curfew. It was not an official lockdown, it was only a voluntary lockdown enforced by the people of India on the call of the Prime Minister. And at the same time, 5 o'clock on 22nd of March, everybody in India was felicitating the Corona warriors in the most symbolic manner, coming out of their homes and doing it. And then we saw this lockdown in India, which according to 5 studies, including by some Boston group also, by these different groups, the scientific studies have established that lakhs of cases did not happen because of that lockdown. We could save many people from dying, huge numbers, just because of this lockdown. And then the lockdown, of course, resulted in a lot of problems for the Indians, and of course it has happened all across the world. People facing distress around economic issues around the livelihoods of migrant laborers, and fooding and shelter and all those problems. But India, with the help of the vision of the Prime Minister, with his visionary schemes, with his schemes announced with total financial and other support to the poor people, and with the commitment which was shown by thousands of non-government organizations and social organizations in India, we were able to overcome all these difficulties that people encountered. And almost 800 million people were given food and money in their bank accounts for almost continuously for 6 months. When the migrant laborers faced the issue, over 65 lakh of them were transported and sent to their native places in their villages. And when all this distress was happening, there came a time when there was a need to take a bold decision, as bold as the decision to lock. I think the country under Prime Minister took another bold decision of unlocking, and series of unlocking phases started, and ultimately we could see that in spite of a lot of these difficulties, there was the support given to the people to start their businesses, to start their industry, to start their factories, to start their businesses. But of course, all through we stressed upon one point, and because as a minister, as a doctor, and you can all appreciate that fighting COVID doesn't involve a lot of rocket science. It is just about ensuring that people follow COVID appropriate behavior, wearing a mask, maintaining a physical distance, concentrating around respiratory etiquettes, hand hygiene, and avoiding crowded places. So from the day one, we had that innovative caller tune in our telephones, given message given continuously to 117 crore subscribers in this country. All possible modes of communication used to convince people that they have to follow the COVID appropriate behavior. And at that stage, early in the fight against COVID, I had mentioned to the people of India that this particular activity around masks and social distancing, and added to that at that time the lockdown, they are the real social vaccines for us. And that social vaccine is relevant even after 10 months. Though we are in the process of developing a vaccine, our indigenous vaccines also, though we are in the process of completing our third phase trials in the next 1 or 2 months, and shall be in a position to at least immunize 20 to 25 crore Indians by July 2021. But that is, you see, in spite of that, throughout we have been emphasizing on this social vaccine. The whole country, you must have heard that in the initial stages we were faced with lot of issues regarding shortages of PPEs, the N95 masks, the ventilators, the beds and all those related issues. But within a span of a couple of weeks, by hand holding our people in India, we reached to a stage where we could manufacture over a 5 lakh number of PPEs in the country. We could start manufacturing ventilators in the country. We could start manufacturing N95 masks in the country. And we were exporting drugs to 150 countries of the whole world. And the testing kits that we were in fact importing earlier, in the initial stages, we came to a position where we were manufacturing over 1 million kits every day in the country. We validated over 1,000 kits, new kits that were developed in India. And the greatest thing that has happened is the fact that we were blamed in the initial stages for doing only a few thousand tests at few places in the country, because we started our journey with one lab. That was our prestigious National Institute of Virology in Pune. But today, when I talk to you, we have almost over 2,100 laboratories in the country. You just cover a distance of 3 kilometers, even in the remotest of the remote areas, whether it is a mountainous area or it's a tribal area, you will come across a lab established during the period of these lockdowns and other difficult phases. In the most difficult terrains, we have been able to establish labs where we are testing, as I said, over 1 million people, from 1 to 1.5 million people every day. We have repurposed our CBNAT and TrueNAT machines, which were earlier used for tuberculosis diagnosis. We have got the new antigen tests. We have our scientists who have worked out a new Feluda test, is a paper test which is going to revolutionize and maybe as powerful as the RT-PCR test. So this is about the journey in which in fact the total government approach, total society approach, everybody, every ministry, everybody became a party to all this activity. All state governments were on board. Everybody was working on the same wavelength. Prime Minister was having continuous meetings with the chief ministers and with his officers. And within a span of a few weeks, all over the country, we established dedicated COVID hospitals, COVID care centers, COVID health facilities, where there were some 20 lakh dedicated beds. and almost over 12,000 quarantine centers, a very active and dynamic strategy of testing, tracking, treating, and our principle was to ensure that we are able to track people. Contacts of the contact tracings are done in the most dynamic fashion. The first case that came to India on 30th of January in Kerala, a medical student who had come from Wuhan, China, we had 162 contacts of that case traced, right from the passengers who traveled with him, around him, sat around him in the flight from Wuhan to Calcutta. So all these 10 months have been a fight against COVID, in which there has been participation from everyone in India. And as I said, the fact that I said that science has the potential to help solve every problem. Our scientific community, our laboratory people, they had done an exemplary job. They rose to the occasion, and whatever they were doing earlier on, in whatever field, everybody was contributing to COVID, whether it was research around vaccine development, whether it was repurposing of drugs, whether it was working on the discovery of new drugs around the fight against COVID, or whether it was developing the biorepositories, whether it was around genome sequencing. By now we have done genome sequencing of over 4,000 viruses. We have over 15 biorepositories with over 40 to 50,000 viruses stored there, samples stored there for research by scholars and university people. And there is so much that the scientific community has done. The most you see scientifically backed PPE kits and N95 masks, BiPAPs, ventilators, with a lot of latest technology. All these have been contributed by the scientific community. So it has been a great, I would say, the only sadness around the fact is that we have lost a few people also. Of course, when we say 1.46%, it may be technically the lowest, but I know as a doctor, I feel as a doctor, as a human being, that even if there is one life lost in one family, for the family it's 100% loss. It's not just that 1.46% for which we should be happy. And that's what I think we are ultimately further aiming to get our mortality rates less than 1%. See that as soon as possible we are able to handle COVID. And then finally I have to say that the COVID has ultimately brought some good news for us. And maybe if whatever we have learnt during this COVID period, or whatever was forced upon us to change our behaviors, it has certainly reminded us that we used to have clean rivers, we used to have clean air, we used to have clean water, and a lot of those things have got restored. And in the last 6 years I had been environment minister for 2 years, and I could appreciate very much the role of humanity to fight issues around global warming, climate change. I launched the Green Good Deeds campaign in that ministry, where we had continuously motivated people for adopting green good behavior. The way we are able to, you see, this facility was available earlier also, but COVID reminded us that we can use technology to connect with the whole world. There was no need for traveling from one place to other. COVID has reminded us that we can strengthen our educational component sitting at home. We can work from homes. We can ensure that the traffic congestion on the roads contributing to pollution can be avoided by just working. And it has also reminded us that we need to have that strong filial bond of great relationship within the family. That bond has, I think, once again it has been reminded to the society while we stayed at home with our grandparents, with our children, and spent quality time with them. So all those issues around human values, they have all been reminded by this. And the fact that we have to respect Mother Nature, we have to respect Mother Earth, all these things have come back in our foresight right now for us to follow. And this is a great time when the new normal that we have seen developing during the COVID times, if we can just adopt many of these good things together. We in India promoted good nutrition during COVID. We strengthened our Eat Right India campaign. We strengthened our Fit India campaign. We strengthened our movement around yoga, which was reminded to the whole world in 2014 by Prime Minister through the United Nations. And again, the ancient medical wisdom around Ayurveda, which has been also been a passionate subject for me. When I started my public life 25-26 years back as health minister in Delhi, I had established the Delhi Center for Modernized Delhi Research Center for Modernized Promotion of Ayurveda, so that we can put it across to the whole world in scientific language with scientific means. And in these 10 months we have done enough of good quality research around Ayurvedic medications, and the results of those research have shown to us that people who took these Ayurvedic prescriptions during COVID times had fantastic results. They got better cure, they had less symptoms, and their recovery rates were faster and much better, and there was literally no mortality. So all these things around holistic approach to medicine, the world is now very clearly thinking about integrating modern medicine with other indigenous medicines, and things like Ayurveda, yoga, and all those related issues. So this COVID has in fact given us all these, reminded us about all these things. And I am very happy that in this session itself we have speakers who are committed to these causes, and this discussion around the benefit, we may not be able to call it a blessing in disguise, because of course we cannot excuse ourselves for the loss of these lives and the way COVID has troubled the whole humanity. But the time is ripe for all of us to actually assertively acknowledge the teachings of COVID for the modern world, and we need to redefine and reassert and follow now a new path for the future generations to learn and actually rectify the mistakes that we forgot. Our forefathers had told us so many good things, but probably the present generation did not respect many of those things, and that is why probably we are having all these issues like the one that we faced in 2020. So I know I may have taken a lot more time than that may have been assigned for me. I wish I could talk and talk and talk. There are so many thoughts which are coming to my mind, but I would maybe use another occasion to delve at in detail about many other things. But let us now uh, pledge to work for serving humanity in future times in a more scientific manner, and as our Prime Minister has been repeatedly talking at all forums for India, he has given a call for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. He is talking about all the activities around respecting the green movement and working once again collectively for issues like global warming and climate change, and reviving our respect for the mother planet. I think that is what, if we can resolve and pledge, at least in our own, for our own lives, start practicing what we are preaching. And I am sure that if people at the Boston Center of Excellence will take a lead in this, because you have a huge good quality reputation, not across America but of course across India also. And I would also use this occasion to welcome all the, and in fact extend an invitation to good quality researchers, committed people all across the world, and particularly in the American universities, and more particularly the Indians who are there, that India under Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a changed India now. Or whether it is a medical professional or a scientific researcher, there is a changed environment. It's undergoing a revolutionary change. There is a huge innovation ecosystem. There is a huge technological revolution happening, and there is a huge startup and stand-up movement growing in the country. And there are a lot of schemes that have been announced in the science and technology forums to welcome such Indian researchers come back to India, or maybe come back for a short time, deliver, learn, share the experience. And then India's thinking and ideology has always been that the whole world is one family, and we all have to work for serving humanity at that global level. Prime Minister has asked every Indian, appealed to every Indian to dream about delivering a new India to all Indians by 2022, an India where everybody has a smile on his or her face. We can give adequate, good quality education, health facilities, and nutritional support to every child. And we can also ensure good quality security, safety, and self-respect for women and our older people. And there is only one ism that he wants to prevail in India, that is humanism and nationalism. I am sure that India has the potential to actually help the whole world in developing a better, safe, healthier, modern world. So with these few words, I once again thank all of you, Professor Balram Singh ji, and all your colleagues and all the distinguished speakers. My greatest respect for all of you. Thanks, and my good wishes on behalf of all Indians. Namaskar, Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai.